Alright, so now we are going to use all the concepts that we have been learning for the past 40 minutes to apply to solve the assignment for the week. Alright, so let's get straight into it. So I'm going to open my remix. Alright, now the contract we are going to be using for this project is basically the one we used for last week. So what we are actually going to do in this assignment is just a build up of what we have already done from last week. Alright. Alright. So let's read all the project instructions that have been given. Alright. So this week's project builds on the previous lessons, challenging you to enhance your simple storage smart contracts with the advanced concept of mapping, events, and data locations. The goal is to give you hands-on experience with these topics and deepen your understanding of how they impact smart contract functionality and efficiency. So what do you need to have set up is your remix together with the simple storage contract we used from the previous week. Right, now let's read the instructions carefully. Right, so the first instruction says add a mapping to your simple storage contract to demonstrate efficient data storage and retrieval. And the way to do that is to create a mapping to store names and associated favorite numbers. Then the next thing says modify the add person function to store data in the mapping. If you need help, refer to module 2.5 of the Solidity Programming 101 course. Before I will head over to Remix to actually implement this, let's glance through the HackerBoost platform. Alright, on the HackerBoost platform, we would use this as a guide to implement all the necessary instructions that have been given. So from the very first instructions I just read, it said I should refer to module 2.5, which I am in currently, then head over to the mappings example that was implemented in the module 2.5. I'm just going to scroll down. So you can see here there is the mapping string UN256 public, then the name of the mapping is named to favorite number. So when you come to the next module, which is events and login, and that's also another instruction. Basically we are going to be implementing these same things into our assignment, right? So one of the instructions we have in the week's assignment is to implement an event called number updated. So if you ever get stuck along the line, just refer back to the resources we have, but I would advise you to type them yourself so that it builds your muscle memory. The more you do it, the more it becomes self-conscious. You become more aware of it. The more it becomes part and parcel of you. So now I'm going to head back to Remix and I'm going to implement all of these myself. If I face an error, I fix so that we appreciate the process of implementing this assignment. The very first instruction says that create a mapping to store names and the associated favorite numbers. Then after you do that, modify the add person function to store data in the mapping. So let's head over to Remix to implement this. Create a mapping to store names and the associated favorite numbers. Alright. So now as you can see, I'm back in my Remix. I'm going to implement a mapping. So as we normally do, to declare this mapping, you start with the mapping keyword. So mapping going to type out mapping. So mapping, then the key data type, so that's going to be a string, right? So string, then what is the value data type? So that's a uint256. That's definitely a uint256. Then what's the name of the mapping? The name of the mapping is name to favorite number, right? So this is gonna be a public, then name to let me just make this capital, name to favorite number. So that's the name of my mapping. Let me end the statement with a semicolon. Then it said we should add this to the add person function. So let's look for that. The add person function. So this is how I'm going to assign it here. So I'm just basically going to say the name of my mapping. We do mappings the same way we assign arrays. So I'm just going to say name to name to favorite number. Wait, comment. Let me get rid of this. Favorite, spell that. Let me get the spelling correctly. Favorite number, right? Favorite. Then the key in this case is underscore name, then the value is underscore favorite number, favorite number. And that's how we just declared and stored the mapping in this function. Alright, so let's go to the next part of the assignment. It says we should add and emit events. So if you can see it, we are going to create an event named called number updated that logs when the favorite number is updated, and then we are going to modify the store number function to emit the number updated event. Alright, so let's go ahead and create the number updated event first with its params as new favorite number. Let me head back to our remix. We know that for this kind of data types, we declare them at the really good to declare them at the beginning of the contract. So I'm going to declare my mapping and my event just after the mapping. So it's going to be event It's called, the name of the event is number updated, and its params basically is um, a unit 356 because it's a number that we are storing. Then the name of my param, so I just call it new favorite number. Alright, and the statement as well. Let me get that correctly. And the statement. Alright, so let's go back to the assignment and see what next it said we should do with the event. So it said modify the store number function to emit the number updated event. So let's go to the store number function. Let me enter back to my remix. Let's scroll down to find the store number function. I think I have to go to the top. I think I missed it. Alright, here you go. So found it. So just after this line, the next line, we write the emit. So emit, then the name of the event, number updated. So number updated, and the number we are updating, or the logs what we are logging, is basically the favorite number, right? So I'm going to clear this. Alright, that should work. Now the code is clean. I think up to this point we should compile and test out what is happening. So let's compile this contract. All looks good, as you can see the green here. Now let's deploy this contract so we can actually test it. Alright, let's deploy. Alright, we can see creation of simple storage in the logs. Yeah, it deployed. Alright. Alright, so we can see the mapping that we added. We added a mapping to the add person function, right? So let's create a new function to be able to, let's create alright, so let's add a function to test out if our mapping is actually working. So I'm going to create a function after the add person to see if to test out if our mapping is working and give us a practical fill. So I'm going to call this function basically get favorite number map or something like that. So function get, gonna call it get favorite number map. Let me get this. Okay. Then in the params, I have to give it the key, what exactly I'm looking for. So because I want this to be, it's going to be in the memory, and I'm handling string, so I definitely have to bring memory. So the prompts is going to be string memory name. That's our key. That's the key I'm looking for the mapping. So I'm just going to make this let me get the mapping spelled correctly. Alright, it's public view, because I'm just getting, so I don't want to modify state, I just want to read. So view returns, I'm returning a uint 256, right? Because that's the value I'm looking for in the mapping. So uint 256. Then let's give the body of the function. So I have to return a key to get the value. So I will return the key of the mapping. So return the name of the mapping. So name to query number, then the key, which in this case is underscore name. Let's end the statement. Everything looks good. Let's compile and test this. Still compiling. Okay, everything looks good. Now we can deploy and test. It's creating. Yes, deployed. Alright, so to test out the mapping, the first thing we're going to do is actually add a person, the name of a person, to its favorite number. Then secondly, we want to put the name of that person in the get function to see if it will give us the value. So let's add a person and its favorite number. So we use the add person function. So let's say the name here would be Enoch, and his favorite number is 21. Let's transact. Boom, it's successful. Now let's put in the key to see if we'll get the value. So we put in Enoch. Let's transact. There you go. There you can see it. It's 21. Exactly. That's how mappings work, and they are very efficient for looking up huge data. All you need to know is the key. Alright. Now let's test out if our event is actually working. So the event we implemented was event number updated, as you can see here. So we put it in the store number function. and we emitted the its logs here. So let's see if this is actually working. So let's see if we ever store a new number, if it will actually emit a log of our data. So I'm going to go to the store number function here, and I'm going to put in the number 40. Then I'm going to store it. Alright, cool, that was done. Now let's go to the logs to see if this was actually logged. So this is the transaction hash. Let's scroll down. There we see it. We saw the new favorite number was logged, and we can see the number that was inputted was 0, and the what it emitted was, sorry, the number that was inputted was 40, and the function actually emitted the 40. And basically, let's take out the emit function, compile this, and test it again to see if the event will still emit. So let's comment this out. Note that any new thing that we do on the contract, we have to recompile and redeploy. So let's do that. So let's recompile this. So I'm recompiling this smart contract. As you can see, it's recompiling. Alright, it's recompiled. Then now we can redeploy this. So I'm going to go up. I'm going to clear this contract, the one we just used to test. I'm going to delete it. And I'm going to redeploy this new one. Alright, so it's redeployed. Alright, so let's store a new number and see if it will actually log, because we commented out the emit. Alright, so we have storing 60. When you store 60, we're going to transact. You can see that it's transacting, and that's our event log. Let's see the logs, if you actually see the logs emitting. Let's scroll down. So now we can see that the logs is an empty array. That means because we commented out a tier, because we commented out the emit, it does not log anything. And basically that's how events work. You create the event and you emit it in a specific function that will log out the specific data you need. So it subscribes to an event and emits whenever an action is triggered to that function based on the event definitions. I hope you do get it and you do understand. Now let's tackle the rest of the assignment. Alright, so the rest of the assignment basically is to utilize storage, memory, and call data. So use a storage variable to persistently store the favorite number. So basically I think we already have that in our smart contract in the form of a state variable. So remember that any state variable you already have is automatically stored in storage. So I'm going to lower this down so I can have a bigger space to work. Alright, so all of these are already state variables and they're automatically stored in storage. So for that, we are not going to do much on that. The next one says we should create a function that demonstrates call data. Then the next one says we should also create another function that demonstrates memory. So we'll go ahead and play around with that, and that will be the end of this assignment. So let's scroll down and implement functions like this. I'm going to go to the last part, and I'm going to implement the functions here. So I'm going to call this function I'm going to start with the very first function. That function is going to be on memory. Alright, so I'm going to create a function to basically be able to update a name. I'm just going to do that first. Then it's going to be, let me make sure the spacing is correct, the format is right. I'm going to say update name. So the parameters I'm going to take is basically string memory, already this is, if it was a Unit 256 I wouldn't have to declare memory, but because string is a complex data type I have to declare memory. So I don't want to modify state, so I'm just going to make this a public pure returns so I'll type the returns well. Type the body of the function. So this function basically retrieves a name from the memory. So I'll just say name, which is my variable, is equal to, which name should we use? Let's say now. Then I'm gonna end the statement basically. Then I'm gonna return my variable, which is name.